Minister, there are 9,409 adults who are currently homeless in this state, 4,105 children accessing emergency accommodation in this state. That's the equivalent to the full population of the town of Middleton in Cork. It's a very significant size of Irish citizens who are currently in a state of homelessness. There's equivalent to 117 classrooms of children, full classrooms of children in this state who are homeless at the moment. It's an incredible situation. There's 60,000 people on waiting lists in local authorities across the state. And Eurostat has found out that there's been a 100% increase in rents since Fine Gael was elected in government in 2011. House prices are out of reach for all but the wealthiest in society at the moment. And it was reported today that the combined earnings of a nurse and a Garda will not buy a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in the greater Dublin area at the moment. So if you are one of 2 important public servants in this country carrying out critical roles in terms of the delivery of health and security in this state, you cannot live within the greater Dublin area. Now, that doesn't mean County Dublin. It means Louth, Meath, Kildare and Wicklow. So you are condemned to commuter hell to be able to provide your services. So this cancer of a housing crisis that has been allowed to exist for the last 10 years is affecting every single element of society and delivery of government services in the country at the moment. Now, the targets that the government have are half what they need to be. The ESRI are saying that we need to be building 60,000 homes here on an annual basis. And even the social housing targets. The first 9 months of this year, or last year, saw 2,642 new social homes that were built. The target was 9,100 for the whole year. 2,000 affordable homes were delivered in the first 3 quarters, far fewer than the 5,500 that exists in the target. Fine Gael have been in government for 13 years. Phil Hogan, Alan Kelly, Simon Coveney, Owen Murphy, and now Darragh O'Brien from Fianna Fáil. And every year, this crisis is steadily getting worse. So what I would say to the government is we need to focus, first of all, on a number of issues. The first issue here is the number of deaths amongst homeless people in this country. And we in Aintu have been to the fore in the last number of years of highlighting the number of people who are dying in homelessness every year in this state. And we found out that in the last 5 years, more than 400 Irish citizens have passed away in homelessness. An incredible record. And that's just the people who've died in the capital city, because no other local authority collects that detail at all. So that figure is a multiple of 400 in its entirety for the state who are dying in homelessness currently. And those figures have got steadily worse since 2018. 47 deaths recorded in 2018, 49 in 2019, 76 in 2020, 115 in 2021. And, you know, it's heartbreaking to see this happen, because if you look at the age profile of those deaths, about 2/3 of the people who are dying currently in homelessness in the state are younger than myself. And that's stolen lives for people who have enormous potential and should have a significant proportion of their life to live in front of them. It's an incredibly sad thing to see. Now, the government commissioned a report by Dr. Austin Carroll, the North Inner City GP specialising in healthcare for marginal groups. And he found out that people who were homeless for 18 months had a mortality rate of 8 times that of people who were homeless for 6 months. So homelessness is a cause of death. It is a significant element in the reason why people are dying on the streets. And you know, that's an issue that's not been focused on. And indeed, when we've raised it, we've actually seen Minister Darragh O'Brien try to downplay the statistics that we've brought forward to say, and in one response he said that some of these people were actually dying of car accidents, for example. You know, it is really important to recognise that homelessness is a cause of death, and it needs to be tackled in relation to that. So we have about 100,000 people in housing distress across the country at the moment. Many, many people now paying the majority of their earnings either in rent or on mortgages. We have tens of thousands of people who were on the precipice of homelessness. And that's people, ordinary workers, who basically are a month's rent, a broken clutch in their car, or a landlord that is pig ignorant, potentially, away from being homeless. And the fact that we are living in a society that leaves families in such a precarious state. And it wouldn't take much to simply add in fixity of tenure, to be able to say to people that if you fulfill your responsibilities according to your contract, in terms of pay and in terms of making sure that the house is kept in good order, that you will be able to stay in this house for either a specific length of time, a 10 or 15 or 20 year length of time, or in perpetuity. But the government won't give that confidence to people. And so many people are calling my office on a regular basis, sitting in front of me in clinics, and they're saying, Peadar, I have no idea where we're going to go. And they're in panic, and you can see the fear across their faces. So we're in this jaws of an emergency at the moment. And what is the government's response to it? And this is the real issue that I have. And I've mentioned this before. I believe that there's an extreme level of government incompetence currently. I think some of it is because the government have been in government for so long. Some of it is because many people in government have not held down a job outside of government for so long. But if you look at it right now, a parliamentary question that Aintu put in found out that amongst local authorities, there are 3,500 local authority homes that are empty today. They're empty. There's nobody living in them. There's actually enough local authorities in existence for all the people who are in homelessness to be able to live in. Now, obviously, there's going to be some churn in the number of some local authority homes that are empty. That's natural. But the point is that when a private rental accommodation is flipped, it takes an average 3 weeks for that private rental accommodation to be relet to another family. What's the average for a local authority, Minister? It's 8 months on average. It takes an average 8 months for local authorities in this country to get that property back into use. That's an incredible indictment against the level of administration that's happening in local authorities and the government at the moment. The schemes that the government are providing are incredible. So the government have created this network of schemes, especially to get people, they say, back into houses that are vacant. The idea that we have 160,000 vacant homes in a housing crisis is similar to ships leaving this country with food in the middle of a famine. It's just atrocious that you would have that happening. So the government have created a fund in terms of getting vacant house properly refurbished. They launched it in July 2022. So far, the number of people who've actually been paid out in this grant has been 70 a year, in a year and a half. 70 houses out of 160,000 empty houses have been paid out in a year and a half. So the government is spending about €250,000 a month on grants to get empty homes back into use. Now, the proportion of that action by the government to the size of the crisis is immense. It would take 3,300 years for the government to get all of those empty houses back into use if they keep delivering that particular grant at the same rate. An incredible situation. And the other issue here that's feeding homelessness significantly is evictions, no-fault evictions. And incredibly, we in Aintu put up an amendment when the bill was discussed here last and voted upon last, and that amendment was to inject some level of compassion into the government's proposals, to give a chance for the governments to help those in need. And our amendment was very simple. It sought to give protections against eviction for people who had fulfilled their responsibilities as tenants, but who had a disability, who were suffering from cancer, or who had a severe illness, who were pregnant, or who had a very young child, or who were over the age of 65. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Green TDs voted against that amendment. Now that, I feel, is an indictment against the government's approach to this. The fact that they could not even make an exception in terms of this. And the issue of vulture funds. In the period of the last government, vulture funds got to visit the Department of Finance 150 times. When the Committee on Finance asked them to come before the committees, they appeared 0 times. The vulture funds are a product of Fine Gael policy. They are creating excess demand within the system, which is pushing up rents and pushing up house prices, and they're doing it on the basis of paying no tax, and it has to come to an end. Gur maith agat a chaithfear.